What we have going on here is AP Dual Credit Psychology Unit 2, Lecture 3. We're going to label parts of the brain. Now, for those of you guys who have printed this out, this is the outline, as we did with the neuron. You can see it labeled there. I didn't talk to you about this before, but as we go through and label parts of the brain, you'll notice on your outline there's a couple of graphics there and there where you can label it, as well as a graphic here where you can label it, as well as if you go back to this right here, there's a couple of graphics that look like that. That's what your quiz is going to look like, okay? Not with all the writing that this student did for me, but this is what you have to study, because you'll have this, that, and this all on your quiz. So you want to make sure that you know where those particular things are, as well as what their particular functions are. So here we're going to talk about labeling the older brain, the inner brain, the brain that is very much like a rat, or very much like other animals. And this is why you can do tests on rats and memories or whatnot. Now, so focus, look at that, better focus. No, not so much, a little blurry. Actually, I look better when it's blurry. Kind of prefer that. I kind of prefer the world to see me through blurry context. So we're going to take a look at the older brain. We're going to take a look at the older brain and sort of the functions that it does have. So the inner brain is the older brain. So we're going to be looking at today this right here. You think of, if the brain, this is the outer brain right here, this is humans, where it basically differs from other animals, but the older brain is this part right here. No, this is my arm, but your brain comes around here, but it's what's inside of there. That is the older brain, very primitive. It's what we've had since we were this back in other times. It enables emotion, it enables us to get to memories, and allows us to process information without really thinking about information. When it comes to thinking and higher up level thinking, that tends to be the outside. That tends to be what's in green here, the outer brain. Whereas this stuff in here, it tends to be the inner brain, which again is very, very ancient. Some facts there when it comes to your brain. Again, we talked about billions of neurons, 86 billion neurons, the speed that it goes, all of these different things. Just some kind of statistics if you want to pause on that and take a look at that. Now, when we talk about the brain stem, so again, this is our overall brain here. This is the image of the inner brain. This is what we're going to be labeling. So when we talk about the brain stem, we're talking about this thing that comes up. If you think of a piece of broccoli or cauliflower, you've got the flowering of the broccoli or the cauliflower, but that stem, that sort of holds it up. But this doesn't just hold up our brain and connect it to the rest of the spinal cord. Our brain stem also has functions. So this is our brain stem right there. This to this is our brain stem, all right? And within it, you've got the medulla and the pons. So brain stem, medulla, pons, right here, if you're labeling it, it's right here. What this is also very important with the brain stem is that this is the crossover point. This is where everything that we experience on the left side goes over to the right side of our brain. Everything we experience on the right side goes to the left side of our brain. Again, everything I see in my right eye processed by the left side of my brain. Everything I see in my left eye processed by the right side of my brain. Picking this little paper clip up here with my left arm, my right motor cortex is involved in it, and holding this pencil with my right hand, it is my left motor cortex that's involved, in my left sensory cortex that feels it. So the cross wiring that happens in our brain sort of happens at this moment right here. Now, within the brain stem are two main parts. The first part is right here. This is the medulla. Medulla down here, medulla right there. This controls automatic functions. And by the way, like heartbeat. So my medulla, if you're putting on your little graphic, your medulla is right here. This is automatic stuff I don't have to think about. There's no reason for it to get up here in the logical part of my brain where I figure out what the Pythagorean theorem does. I just need to keep my heart beating. I just need to keep my blood pressure. I just need to keep breathing. Vomiting, for some reason, is controlled by the medulla. Don't know why, but I found that fascinating. So this is the automatic stuff. And again, it's stuff that I can't control. It has to happen through the autonomic nervous system, whether it's the parasympathetic or sympathetic, slowing it down or speeding it up. Uh, this is automatic stuff. So the medulla brain, the part of the brain right down here in the brain stem, the medulla controls heartbeat and it controls breathing. A way to remember it is if you get a medal, you know, you win a prize and you get a medal and they put it around you and it goes right here, it's over your heart, it's over your lungs. That's where the medal is. So the medulla controls heartbeat and it controls breathing. Now, right above that is the pons. You take a look right here. The pons is this guy right here, this guy right here, this little guy right here. The pons is also in control of automatic functions, but it's relaxation, it's sleeping. When you are asleep and you are in REM sleep, which is the dreaming stage of sleep, which we'll talk about down the road. So when you're in REM sleep and you're dreaming, and in your dream you're running down, you're running through a forest and you're being chased by a Tyrannosaurus. I don't know why. I mean, I could interpret that, but that's between me and the therapist. But you're running down whatever, so your arms are moving and your legs are moving and everything else. But when you sleep, your body doesn't move, and that is the sleep paralysis. Because as your brain is dreaming and all that activity is going on, and you want to send it, you know, arms need to be pumping, legs need to be running. The pons paralyzes you during that sleep. And that's why when you wake up out of a very, very, very active, deep dream, sometimes when we wake up, we feel our body sort of frozen and we have that sleep paralysis because it takes a couple of seconds to get our brain and our body back online. So again, the pons is relaxation. You think of a pond, very relaxing, not a lot of rapids or movements or flowing. It's just settled water and mosquitoes. And also paralysis, pond, placid, paralysis. That's all the pons. So again, those are the two parts of your brainstem. Now, within your brainstem right here, this little guy within it, this little blue thing going on here, and on your brain here, this little guy right there, this is what is known as your reticular formation. And your reticular formation is that when the pons is paralyzing us and not allowing our body to do anything, the reticular formation is what puts us back to being alert. Okay, so when we need to wake up out of a deep sleep and start, that's the reticular formation. When you're driving down a highway like this right here, and you're just driving down a highway again, and the road's just flowing and flowing and flowing, and then you start to sort of go, and you sort of come back to it. That's your reticular formation. When you're sort of just zoning out, thinking of nothing. Someone's like, hey, what? Getting yourself back online, getting rid of the background stimuli, being able to focus on a particular thing. That's your reticular formation, okay? So again, tickling. Think of tickling. You're alerted. You know, if somebody tickles you here, you're suddenly very alerted to that particular stimulus over there. That's your reticular formation, which again is right here within your medulla and your pons as well. Okay, oops, sorry, I followed a link that I didn't know I was following. Let's sort of get out of here. It's kind of like Oz, you got behind the scenes there. You're the man behind the curtain. Your thalamus. All right, so on top of our brainstem, so my brainstem's down here. On top of it right here is the thalamus. You see it on the left and right side there. So if we go here, this is our thalamus. Now the thalamus is sort of the it's the route that everything else goes through. It is the the switchboard. It is the hub, if you would. If you've ever taken an airline that doesn't really offer a lot of direct flights, there is usually, like, I used to fly AirTran. I don't even know if AirTran is still around anymore. But when when I was taking my daughter back to Detroit a lot, or to Ohio to visit her mom, we would go from, instead of going from Houston to Detroit, we have to go to Houston, Atlanta, Detroit. Because in order for AirTran to make money, what they would do is they would just have everybody have a connecting flight here. So if I wanted to fly from Houston to Wichita, I'd have to go to Atlanta, then to Wichita. You know, they didn't have a lot of direct flights. So this way they could make it efficient. So they could go from Houston. So everybody across the country from different areas could all fly to Atlanta. And everybody here wants to go to Denver. Okay, let's gather all the people around the country who want to go to Denver and we'll send them from Atlanta. That's just how it works. So anyways, it's a hub. What does that have to do with the thalamus? It's the same thing. All information coming from the body, all these afferent neurons, all these sensory neurons get sent up through the spinal cord to the thalamus. Then the thalamus decides, where do you go? Okay, you are your hand picking something up. You need to go to the sensory cortex. In order to write out a math problem, it's got to be solved in your parietal lobe. So you go up to the parietal lobe to tell you how to do that. You saw this thing, it needs to go to the occipital lobe. You're hearing this thing, it needs to go to the temporal lobe. And this is the hub that sends all messages from all of our senses to the proper part of the brain. Or when it's leaving the brain, the efferent neurons, which are exiting the brain, will then be sent out to the body. So all of our senses, with the exception of smell, I don't know why smell doesn't, but all of our other senses, they have to go through the thalamus. You must go through the thalamus first. Okay, so thalamus is like thalamus. You must go through the thalamus first. All right, if that makes sense. So this is the hub. And if you think of the brain goes around it. It's that center point right there. And so that's the hub right on top of the brainstem. And then the limbic system is around that. Your cerebellum is this guy back here, the very base of your brain. Right in the back of your brain right there is the cerebellum. If you look on your two different pictures, it's either right here or right there. So if we add the outside of the brain, it's right at the bottom here. It's exposed down there. But if we were to slice the brain in half, it would be right there. Now the cerebellum at the base of the brain, this is where a lot of our motor functions are going on. Our automatic functions are going on. This enables, and this is where your coach tells you, don't think about it, just shoot. You know, when we walk, we don't think of every step we're taking, we just walk. When I pick something up, I just pick it up. When you're playing guitar, you just play guitar. You're playing piano, you're just playing piano. You don't think of every little key you're hitting because you've done it again and again and again and again. So again, you're more efficient when you do this. If I'm on the foul line and I got to take the last shot of the game, you know, I'm just going to shoot like I've always shot, and it's just going to come right here. Now, here's the problem. If I don't just use my cerebellum, I get up into my frontal lobe and I think, oh man, if I make this, a lot of people are going to like me, but then if I miss this, no one's going to like me and everyone's going to hate me. And I get locked up here in my frontal lobe, that's going to get in the way of me being able to make this shot. If I sit here and give my parietal lobe and go, okay, let's see, I'm 15 feet away from the basket, it's 10 feet high, like I'm solving a new problem, I've already made the shot 1,000 times. Stop getting up here, stop getting in your head, and just use this. And again and again and again, your coach will tell you, don't think about it, just shoot. When you make a text message, you don't sit there and go, okay, where's the J, where is the L, where is the M, where's the pound sign at? Because I want to tag this. You just, you do it. You don't think about it, you just do it. When you write your name, you're not going, okay, how do I make an A again? You're not up inside your brain. You're just doing your cerebellum, what you've done again and again and again and again and again. But the problem is, a lot of times with athletes, when athletes make mistakes, it's because they're thinking too much. They're thinking too much. You got to sometimes stop thinking about it. And that's why you go to practice. You go to practice to run that route again and again and again, to make those neural connections again and again and again. And you do that in practice, and you do those drills, you know, the layup drills that seem like a waste of time. But you do it to make those memories, to make those connections, to do those muscle memories. So again, the cerebellum right in the back of our brain, the base of our brain. And if you fall back and you hit it and you get a little bit dizzy because it's like, oh, I can't walk anymore, you rung your bell. You know, I hit the back of my head, I rung my bell. So cerebellum balance, very important for our muscle actions. Now the limbic system, this is different parts of our brain. The limbic system sort of all works together. Right around the thalamus, this is the limbic system. All right, and it's going to include the hypothalamus, the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the pituitary gland we're going to throw in there as well. So all of these guys are parts of the limbic system. We're going to take them one by one. First one is the hippocampus. We'll talk more about the hippocampus when we get to memory, but the hippocampus is like a save button on your brain. So again, if I take something in and somebody gives me their phone number and I sort of go, what's your phone number? Okay, type it in, you know, and I make the call. And then someone goes, well, what was that number? I don't remember because I didn't save it in my brain. I saved it in my phone and I saved it in my brain. If I don't save it, then it just disappears, because I've got sensory memory where I'm experiencing something, short-term memory where I'm paying attention to something, and then long-term memory is something I can put away and I can pull back. And the hippocampus is what's responsible for putting that memory away. Now, key. The memories are not stored in the hippocampus. They're stored throughout our brain in different places, but it is the job of the hippocampus to send them out to our brains. And again, we could tie emotion into that. I'm sorry, by the way, your graphic right here. Here on your graphic is where the hippocampus is. My mood can greatly impact where I put that particular memory. If I'm in a good mood, I put it with the good mood memories and everything else. And then when I'm in a bad mood, I can't remember the good mood memories. When I'm in a good mood, I can remember those again. The context, when I was at my elementary school, I made all these memories of being in my elementary school, and then those memories, and so I store them in my elementary school memories throughout my brain. And then I don't have those memories for a while until I go back to my elementary school, and I'm back in that same room and next to that same locker, and suddenly whoosh, they all come back again because I'm in the same context. So the hippocampus's job is to store these memories, to shoot these memories to parts of our brain. Some things I'll remember, some things I won't. If it's not important, it's not about me, I don't save it. So this is the save button. And without this save button, we are forever in short-term memory. We never get into long-term memory. That stuff we'll talk about more when we get to memory. The amygdala. The amygdala is this little almond-shaped dude right here on top of your hippocampus. So there's my hippocampus, and right on top of it is this amygdala. The amygdala is our barometer of emotions. It doesn't cause our emotions, but it's what sort of alerts us to our emotions, if you would. If we remove the amygdala, we can't experience emotions because we're not aware of our particular emotions. If we stimulate the amygdala, then we can sort of make ourselves think we have emotions that may not even be there. Studies have shown that if you have a larger amygdala, you're more susceptible to fear, you're more susceptible to anxiety, and sometimes, especially in times of politics and persuasion and everything else, the amygdala is a very, very effective thing to use by politicians to say fear. Fear is a great driver of voters. We need a bigger wall. Watch out for those people. Watch out for the crimes. They're coming into the suburbs. Fear, fear, fear. Playing on that amygdala is a very, very much driving force for a lot of people with that sort of survival instinct of fear. So that can get people going. This is the alarm route, again, to emotions. It doesn't control emotions. It doesn't create emotions, but it is it makes us aware of them. It is the barometer of emotions. It lets us know, are things calm or are things out of control? And if it gets hijacked, again, people with anxiety, they tend to have an overactive and sometimes an oversized amygdala. Very interesting story about this guy right here. His name's Charles Whitman. Charles Whitman was a gentleman who, in Austin, Texas, back, I want to say in the 1960s, went up to the clock tower at UT Austin and shot up the campus. And then the police got there and killed him. But he killed his wife and his mother before he did that. But he left a note because he knew it was kind of a suicide mission. And he left a note. And in the note, he said, "Would you please do an autopsy on me? Because I don't know what's causing this. I'm just doing this stuff and I don't know why I'm doing it. Would you please, because I'm going to die, would you please study my brain?" And they did. And then what they discovered was there was like a nickel-sized tumor pressing up against his amygdala. And the theory behind it was that constant pressure, that constant alert of his amygdala gave him a sense of paranoia. And that might have been what was behind it. Now, again, it would have been nicer had the guy never done it and just sort of went there with the letter, "Could you just please study my brain rather than shoot people up?" But we don't know. And a lot of times we don't know. I mean, what was it, the Vegas shooting just a couple of years ago? We still have no idea why that guy did what he did. There hasn't been a study there. The hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is this little guy right here. And this is the wants center of your brain. This is the part of your brain that when it comes to homeostasis and when it comes to balance, this tells me I'm too hot. So I will turn up the AC because I want my homeostasis. I am hungry, so I will eat food. I am tired, so I will go to sleep. So the hypothalamus tells me what I want because we're trying to get this homeostasis. I'm thirsty, I want water, all these things, including sexual behavior and desires and all these other things. And it's a reward center, it's the pleasure center where it wants the food that maybe isn't the best food or whatever. This is the wants center of your brain. And again, a lot of diet medications and stuff like that trying to manipulate the hypothalamus to get it to say, no, you're not hungry, you don't want more food or whatever. So you're trying to stop neurotransmitter signals from being sent to this guy because the hypothalamus is talking to the pituitary gland. So make sure you're able to label the pituitary gland as well, even though we'll talk about it more down the road when we talk about the endocrine system, because the hypothalamus is in control of the barometer and the wants of the nervous system, whereas the pituitary gland is in charge of the endocrine system, which is using hormones to communicate with itself. So when the stomach needs food, hormone leptin is sent up through the pituitary gland and it tells the hypothalamus, hey, we need food. So the communication between these two guys is sort of what keeps the balance of our body going. The trick is this guy's sending it through hormones, which takes a long time, and this guy's sending it through neurotransmitters, which are traveling at 200 miles per hour. You know, you get a message from your stomach, it takes 20 minutes to get up to the pituitary gland. It takes 0.2 seconds to be sent around through the hypothalamus. So sometimes the timing in their communication is off, and that's something I'll talk about in class. So that's it. That's the inner brain, shorter lecture. There's a video down below of a gentleman who does a little video on remembering parts of the inner brain if you want to take a look at that. Next lecture, we're going to take a look at the outer brain and how to label that and specifically what